Welcome, it's Elliot, and if this is your first time seeing me, I am reading a book in every subgenre of every genre, starting with fantasy. And let's jump right into it today. Today I am reading a book in the historical fantasy subgenre, and the book representing that is Shades of Milk and Honey by Mary Robinette Kowal. Alright, before we start talking about the book, let's talk a bit about historical fantasy, shall we? What is historical fantasy? Well, it's a little bit historical fiction and a little bit fantasy. Historical fiction is pretty obvious what it is. It is a story that takes place in the past, that happened mostly in the writer's mind. There's no historical evidence of this story ever happening. That is a historical fiction. Fantasy, we all know what fantasy is, right? It involves magics, wizards, dragons, perhaps. We'll be seeing a nice blend of those two elements in the story, I would hope. I don't know too much about this. It's just looking at the cover, it does not look like a book that I would pick up on my own accord if I wasn't doing this project. Nothing against the cover, it looks like a really great cover. It just wouldn't hook me necessarily. But that's just me. And this is the 5th book I have done in the series so far, and I haven't read anything from a woman writer, so now is a good time. I figured historical fantasy. So one question I had when thinking of historical fiction and historical fantasy particularly is how far back in history do we consider it historical? Quick search, it's usually pre-20th century. This book, I did a bit of research, I read a little bit of synopsis just to give myself a bit of insight on what this book is about. It takes place during the Regency period, which is about 19th century England time. Another thing that they mentioned a lot is that there was a lot of Jane Austen elements in it. It's as if Jane Austen wrote a fantasy book, they say. So I kind of wish I read a Jane Austen book before picking up this one. That would have given me some understanding of the comparisons. I don't have that, so I'm going into this book pretty much blind. I don't know much about the Regency period, I don't know much about Jane Austen, I don't know much about anything. Why am I even doing this, you wonder? Well, I don't know either. I'm just here to learn, here to figure this out. I have a general understanding of what Jane Austen books are about. I assume they're gonna be about relationships. Their main character is gonna be a woman. That's about it, and I'm hoping for some magical elements in this. That's all I got to go on. This should be exciting and fun. So here we go. I will see you momentarily with my halfway point impressions. I have returned halfway through reading Shades of Milk and Honey. I still have no idea why it's called this. This seems like such a random title for this book, as I'm like halfway through it and I still have no idea why. Maybe it has something to do with the magic? Okay, let's get right to it. How do I feel about this book so far? Well, the magic and the historical elements are very subtle in it. The magic in this book is called glamour, and essentially it's almost, it's like an art form. It is something you can learn. It's a skill you acquire. The same way a performance needs to be rehearsed or a painting needs a canvas, glamour needs some sort of structural element for it to exist. The plot of the story focuses on two sisters, Jane, who is very skilled in this magic, glamour, capabilities, and Melody, who is absolutely beautiful. That is her thing. She's just so beautiful. And it's about these two sisters trying to get approval, trying to find a man who would love them. So the main question of this story so far is, what would you rather have? Beauty or talent? Tough one, right? And the thing I love about this historical story so far is how much it relates to modern world, especially this
social media world that we're living in. Those are the two currencies of life, isn't it? Skill or beauty. If you have both, jackpot. If you had to pick, if you have to start all over, if you get to be a 16-year-old and you had to pick one of the two in this social media age, and you could do it tactfully, which way will you go? Let me know in the comments. Another topic that was discussed in this book so far is the idea of an audience seeing a work in progress or seeing behind the scenes. If you're a magician, revealing your tricks. I think that's a very personal thing, especially as an artist, and that's something to consider. It's how do you feel about showing a work in progress to someone? It's like, it's not done yet. I'm not ready to like have you crush it. You're baking, and every time you open the oven, all the heat comes out, and you feel that way when you're letting someone else see your work before it's ready. I really love the style of magic that Penn and Teller does, because they reveal the trick to you after they do it, just so you can see how complicated it was for them to do. And that just increases the scope to me. It's like seeing all the bonus features to Lord of the Rings. I'm actually really enjoying this book so far. It's been a really nice surprise. It might even be my top one so far in terms of the amount I'm enjoying it. Anyways, I'm gonna keep reading this, and I will check back with you at the end of the book, see how I really feel about it, see the conclusion of it. Am I gonna be happy with it? Let's find out right now.
Conclusion. So I just finished reading Shades of Milk and Honey by Mary Robinette Kowal. I don't know why this book has this title. I cannot connect the dots and understand why it's called this. Maybe it's me, maybe it's just a title I feel like it's a title they just like had a bunch of titles inside a hat and they just like plucked one out and it's like, Shades of Milk and Honey, let's go with this. Hey, I'm not the publisher, I'm not the writer, I'm just some fucking guy on the internet with opinions. So, with that being said, how do I feel about this book? I actually really liked it. I really, really enjoyed this book, which is a little surprising, but not really. I always enjoy a nice, very localized story. And as much as I enjoy the big scopes, fantasy stories with like different languages and different races and, you know, a war happening, it's also nice to enjoy a story where it's just about a family, a community, getting along with each other. And what was impressive about this book is how economical all the characters were. None of them were wasted. Every character served a purpose. Every chapter moved the plot along, and it ended with a pretty epic climax that I wasn't expecting. Not epic in a sense, but like a lot of tension was there, and it was a really effective build-up. And where I thought it was lacking was it does tie up a little too nicely at the end. I won't give more detail than that, but for my personal taste, it was a little bow and a knot on the ending, but it did leave me wanting more, and it very cleverly left room for like a potential sequel, as I feel like all good books should. I won't go into too much about the historical elements, but I will say this. It really helped me empathize with the women from the past, because they spent so much of their time caring what men thought of them. And men are kind of jerks. Men are kind of jerks in this book. In terms of the fantasy elements, I saw a lot of parallel between the concept of magic and the concept of secrets. That knowing how to perform magic is very similar to having a secret you can't tell. Like if you know your friend is cheating, for example, and you want to tell his or her partner, you stir up a lot of stuff. And magic is kind of like that. Magic is choosing what you want to reveal and surprising or shocking your audience, right? I see that as like a metaphor for life itself, picking and choosing what part of you want to reveal. It's kind of the greatest magic trick of all. So I want to leave you with this concept from the book. what if the thing you are really good at, your talent, is actually dangerous as well? It has the potential of hurting yourself and hurting the people you love. Will you still do it? Will you still strive to improve on it? Would you encourage other people who have this talent, who are in your community, to do it as well? That is Shades of Milk and Honey by Mary Robinette Kowal. A very delightful book, a very good representation of what historical fantasy can be. It's so subtle. Such a simple story told in such a unique way. So of all the books I've read so far, this might have been the one I enjoyed the most. Once again, I'm Elliot, and I am trying to read a book in every subgenre of every genre. If you're interested, I have a playlist right here. You can see some of my previous episodes, book discussions, whatever you want to call it. If you want to follow me along on this journey, you know what to do. I'm not even gonna have to tell you. Alright, see you guys in the next video.